This is Radio Kuwait. The time now is 9:30 p.m. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the news from Radio Kuwait. I'm Lulu Agaif. We begin with tonight's headlines. Many countries urge a tough international response on Syria after an alleged chemical arms attack which killed hundreds. Egyptian former President Hosni Mubarak is released from prison after an appeal against his detention and is sent to hospital. Violence continues in Iraq as gunmen kill 5 people, including 2 soldiers, in separate attacks. And Zimbabwe's leader, Robert Mugabe, is sworn in again as president, with rival Morgan Tsvangirai boycotting the ceremony. National Assembly Speaker Marzouk al-Ghanim has denounced the massacre in Ghouta area near Damascus, which has claimed the lives of 1,360 people, describing it as a hideous disaster. In a statement to the press, al-Ghanim said he strongly condemned this crime, which targeted innocent women and children, and called on the United Nations to play its part to stop the massacre committed by the Syrian regime and conduct an investigation into the happenings, especially as a team of UN chemical weapons inspectors are currently available in the Syrian capital, Damascus. The National Assembly Speaker also called on the international community to interfere and stop the ongoing bloodshed and fighting in order to allow human relief teams to carry out their mission in providing assistance to those who are in need of help. He said this is the minimum of what the world community can offer to the Syrian people. The Deputy Premier and Minister of Interior, Sheikh Mohammed Al-Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, received at his office today His Excellency Sheikh Ali Al-Khalid Al-Jabir Al-Sabah on the occasion of his appointment as the Ambassador of the State of Kuwait to the Italian Republic. He congratulated Sheikh Ali Al-Khalid for the Emiri confidence and wished him all the best in his mission. The Deputy Premier and Minister of Defence, Sheikh Khalid Al-Jarrah Al-Sabah, received at his office today Kuwait's Ambassador to Italy, Sheikh Ali Al-Khalid Al-Jabir Al-Sabah, and congratulated him on winning the confidence of His Highness the Emir, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jabir Al-Sabah. The Deputy Premier and Minister of Defence also received the Ambassador of the French Republic to the State of Kuwait, Ms. Nada Yafi, who was accompanied by the military attaché at the embassy, Colonel Jean-Paul Clavier. The French ambassador congratulated His Excellency on his new post and conveyed to him a message from his French counterpart. They also exchanged views during the meeting on a number of issues of common interest. The Deputy Premier and Minister of Defence praised the existing strong relations between the two friendly countries and their interest in deepening them further in the future. The United Kingdom, France and Turkey are leading calls for a tough international response to an alleged chemical weapons attack in Syria yesterday, in which activists said hundreds were killed. The UK is calling for UN weapons inspectors already in Syria to be granted access as a matter of urgency. French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius said that if proven, the attacks would merit a reaction of force. However, there is no sign that the UN team will be allowed to investigate, since the team only has a mandate to visit 3 sites agreed between the UN and the Syrian government. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's forces continued today heavy bombardment of the ring of rebel-held suburbs around the capital known as the Ghouta region. Activists said the bombardment will further hinder UN investigators from entering the area, only a few kilometers from the Damascus hotel where the UN team is staying. Activists said several towns in the Ghouta were hit with rockets loaded with poison gas at dawn yesterday. Meanwhile, Syrian government forces pressed on with a military offensive in Damascus today, shelling the suburb of Madamiyah, a different district from the one targeted in yesterday's alleged chemical weapons attack. Former Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak was released today from prison after appealing against his detention and was flown out by helicopter from Tura prison in Cairo to Al-Ma'adi hospital. The release order stated that Mubarak is to be held under house arrest. The former leader still faces charges of complicity in the killing of protesters during the 2011 revolt that ousted him. In the latest spike of violence that the government has so far failed to stem, gunmen killed 5 people, including 2 soldiers in Iraq today. In the northern province of Nineveh, gunmen killed 4 people, including 2 soldiers, and wounded another in 2 separate attacks, one of them targeting a checkpoint. In the northern city of Kirkuk, gunmen killed and executed a lawyer, while a car bomb in a government car park wounded 4 people. Palestinian chief negotiator Saeb Erekat met Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov today in Moscow. Erekat went to Russia to build Russian support for the Palestinian position in the newly restarted peace negotiations with Israel, which began on July 30th in Washington, D.C. Lavrov showed Russian support for the process, saying, "We want the reopened talks to gain strength and bring the results that we are all trying to achieve, to arrive at a settlement that will include all the questions of status so that the state of Palestine will live in peace with Israel and other countries of the region." Erekat said, "We are considering Russia as their partner and friend," adding that the Palestinian people were seeing Russia as a partner in this process. The two car bombs that shook Beirut in the last months are raising fears of Lebanon being dragged further into the Syrian civil war. While Hezbollah's Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah has said his combatants will keep fighting alongside Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, many fear an escalation of sectarian violence between Muslim communities in the country. Robert Mugabe has been sworn in for his 7th term in office as Zimbabwe's leader. The ceremony had been delayed by a court petition filed by his main rival Morgan Tsvangirai over allegations of widespread electoral fraud, but the Constitutional Court dismissed the case, declaring Mugabe's re-election as free, fair and credible. Today was declared a public holiday to allow supporters of Mugabe, who won with 61% of the presidential vote against 34% for Tsvangirai on July 31st, to attend the inauguration. Outgoing Prime Minister and opposition leader Tsvangirai said he would not be attending the inauguration ceremony. The Pakistani army has said that one of its soldiers was killed today in unprovoked Indian fire along the border dividing the disputed territory of Kashmir, in the second such incident within 2 days. A security official said the soldier was killed near Rawalakot in Poonch district, about 130 kilometers from the capital Islamabad. The violence came 2 weeks after India said 5 of their soldiers were killed by Pakistani forces along the so-called line of control separating the two sides in the Himalayan region. But Pakistan denied involvement, and the Pakistani government issued a series of conciliatory statements. Meanwhile, a bomb placed near the ticket counter and waiting area of a railway station in Pakistan's southwest town of Chaman in Baluchistan province killed 2 people and injured at least 10 others yesterday. Japan's nuclear envoy Junichi Ihara arrived today in the South Korean capital Seoul to discuss attempts to denuclearize the Korean peninsula. After meeting his South Korean counterpart Chi Tae-yong at the Foreign Ministry, Ihara said he hoped the two countries could continue to work together to finally attain the ultimate objective of the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. Ihara, recently appointed as the chief nuclear negotiator with 6-party talks on North Korea's nuclear program that have been stalled since 2008, is also expected to hold talks with senior Foreign Ministry officials during his 2-day visit. A nuclear expert has said he believes the current water leaks at Fukushima are much worse than the authorities have stated. Michael Schneider, an independent consultant who has previously advised the French and German governments, says water is leaking out all over the site and there is no accurate figures for radiation levels. Meanwhile, the chairman of Japan's nuclear agency said he feared there would be further leaks. And back in local news, the Ukrainian embassy in Kuwait held a press conference on the occasion of visiting Ukrainian delegation to the country that included the Secretary of the Ministry of Health, Tolistanov, Head of the General Agency for the Management of the National Projects and Investment, Kaskeyev, and Health Professor Kazovkian for rehabilitation. The embassy on this occasion also announced its celebration of the upcoming Ukrainian Independence Day on August 24th. And in business and financial news, this week's trading ended at the Kuwait Stock Exchange with the kHz 15 index gaining 5.14 points to reach 1,072.51 points. The weighted index went up by 1.6 points to 463.93 points, while the price index went down 2.57 points to 8,104.19 points. The US dollar and global equity markets gained today after business surveys from around the world revealed a global economy in expansion, helping cement expectations the Federal Reserve will trim its bond buying program in September. Purchasing managers showed better than expected growth in the Eurozone, a rebound in China's vast manufacturing sector, and U.S. manufacturing activity rising to a 5-month high in August. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was up 0.03%, the Standard & Poor's 500 Index was up 0.68%, and the Nasdaq Composite Index was up 0.89%. And according to a closely watched survey, Eurozone business activity grew at its fastest pace for 26 months in August. The Market Composite Purchasing Managers Index, which includes manufacturing and services, rose to 51.7 points from 50.5 points in July. A number higher than 50 indicates growth. Well, the survey has indicated that activity in the U.S. manufacturing sector grew at its fastest pace for 5 months in August, with a pickup in new orders. Markets Purchasing Manager Index rose to 53.9, up from 53.7 in July, and its best showing since March. The index for new orders rose to 56.5, a 7-month high from 55.5 in July. Nomad True Smart, a smartwatch with built-in 5-megapixel camera, is set to go into production after hitting its crowdfunding target. The device raised more than $100,000 of pledges in fundraising site Kickstarter, guaranteeing it will get the cash. The South Korean firm's achievement comes ahead of the much-anticipated launch of a smartwatch from Samsung. And shares and currencies in emerging Asian economies are hit by fears the U.S. may scale back its bond buying program. Stocks in Indonesia, Thailand and the Philippines fell, with the Philippine Stock Exchange down by more than 6%. India's rupee hit a new all-time low, while the Indonesia rupiah fell to its lowest level since 2009. And the world's cheapest car is getting a makeover because buyers have shunned the low-budget image. The Nano, made by India's Tata Group with a price of 100,000 rupees, that's about $1,400, is being repositioned as a smart city car following disappointing sales. Chairman Cyrus Mistry said the new Nanos will include power steering options, an improved interior and exterior, be available in more colours, and have better fuel efficiency. And in sports, Maria Sharapova of Russia has pulled out of next week's US Open tennis tournament with a shoulder injury. The 2006 champion, who was seeded third for the tournament, is suffering from inflammation in her right shoulder. And in cricket, Steve Smith makes an unbeaten 138 not out in Australia's 492-9, declared on day 2 of the final Ashes test at the Oval. And turn to the weather for tonight here in Kuwait. Relatively hot weather with light to moderate northwesterly to northerly winds and wind speeds of 8 to 30 kilometres an hour. The maximum expected temperature for tonight, minimum expected temperature for tonight is 32 degrees centigrade. The maximum recorded for today is 47. As for tomorrow, by day, hot weather with light to moderate northwesterly winds and wind speeds of 10 to 30 kilometres an hour. The maximum expected temperature for tomorrow is 45 degrees centigrade and the minimum 29. This is all the news that we have for you now. Thank you for joining us.